Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I've got for you another tank review, and today I've got it on quite a weird tank, to be honest. A tank that probably not many of you know what it really is. You might have seen it in some games, but it's kind of a tank that's just there-ish. We're playing in the Object 244. This thing is a tier 6 Russian heavy premium tank. It was on sale a little while ago. So its numbers have increased, but other than that, it's actually one of the more rare tanks in the game. There's only about, according to What Life, there are only about 12,000 players who have this tank in the game. Which, to put that into consideration, into context, sorry, the BTSV has about 13,000 players. Obviously, slightly higher tier than the BTSV. Now, what is this thing all about? This thing it's kind of a bit of a Frankenstein's monsters tank. It's made up of lots of different parts of other Russian tier 6 heavies and tier 7 heavies, pretty much. The hull is the same hull as an IS, so you're looking pretty good in the fact that, you know, it's got a pretty decent armor for a tier 6 on the hull. The turret is the KV-85's turret, and it's got a 85mm gun as well. Similar-ish to the gun on the KV-1S, and again, because this is a tank review, we're going to come on soon and we'll compare. Obviously, the main thing I'm going to be comparing this thing to is the KV-1S and the KV-85, and we'd just like to point out that Gnu now no longer has a head left. We've hit him for 539 with the first shot ammo rack, and that's always a good way to start a game. Like I said, this thing's got an 85mm gun. It's quite a rapid fire 85mm gun. It's got decent DPM of roughly a base DPM of 1,900-ish in and around about. 144mm of standard pen, and 194 on the premium rounds. Like I said, because it's an 85, it's got really nice DPM, as you're about to see. Like, you'll see me taking things to bits, and you've got to remember, this thing's gun is same tier, and, you know, you're going to be comparing it to things like the T-34-85M. It's got a similar kind of gun to that thing. Obviously, lower caliber than the KV-85. The KV-85 has got 100mm, but the gun handling on this thing is what's really nice, and you might be noticing that as I'm playing through this replay, is the gun handling really nice. If anything, I'd probably say this is one of the better guns at tier 6 on a heavy tank. However, the mobility is probably what lets this thing down. Obviously, it being an IS chassis as opposed to the KV-1S or the KV-85, it is a lot slower, and this is something that you're going to see kind of not necessarily catches me out in this gameplay, but it's a lot more tricky for me to actually be able to get places and be able to relocate quickly. I should point out, this replay is on Minsk, and like I said, we're in the Object 244. Pretty much perfect matchup, tier 6s, tier 5s. We brought the vehicle across to the west side of the map, and pretty much, because I'm a heavy tank and nothing really of any threat came to this side of the map from the enemy team, we pretty much cleared them out incredibly quickly. You now get to see that this thing at longer ranges is actually not that bad in terms of accuracy. 0.35 base, which is very nice. Again, much better, and that is, like I say, where this thing absolutely shines when it comes to like what it's good at is its gun handling in comparison to your other tier 6 Russian heavy tanks. Obviously, a lot better gun handling than the KV-2, but that's like saying the sky is blue and the grass is green. It's not really that surprising. And like I said, this is where the mobility of the tank is slightly worse than something like a KV-85, like a KV-1S. It's just not quite as good. The horsepower per ton isn't quite as good. Top speed isn't too bad. It's up there. I think 42 kilometers an hour along the flat, but the engine power is a lot lower as well, which is it's not that great. Like I said, armor-wise, it is better than the other two, but it's still not amazing. It's still not, I don't really know what's really well armoured at tier 6. It's still not like OI levels, but obviously it is a bit quicker than the OI and has got definitely a different gun. Now, coming into the end of the game, this is, like I said, where this mobility is not that great. Trying to come across, we've got 2 KV2s, which is not exactly fun. And, oh, that's KV2. Am I going to die? Am I going to die? KV2 chooses not to shoot me, fortunately. Shoots the Jagdpanzer for him, probably 100% the right thing to do. It gave him a one-shot kill. 670 hit points. But, in hindsight, he probably should have killed me because I'm now going to mop up his M6 friend. Again, rate of fire in this tank, absolutely lovely. Penetration, not really a problem. 144 is pretty decent. Finish off the KV2, obviously gun handling wise. It's much easier for me to be able to come around and just quick fire at him than it is for the KV2 to fire. I wait for the KV2 to fire, using my zoom out to have a look. Put one in, and then I'm going to hold my shot here to pick up the Radley Walters because I'm greedy like that. And boom, that is pretty much all she wrote for this game. I don't find the grill, he's right in the corner, and like I said, the mobility is not particularly great. But that game was quite good. You got to see the basically what this tank is great at. It's great at fighting mediums because it's got that slightly better armor and still a really good gun that takes people by surprise. Like, people don't expect it to fire as quick as it does. It's a bit like the KV1S, to be honest, but this thing does have the slightly higher alpha. The KV1S with the 85 only has 160 alpha. This thing has 180, so it is a bit more punchy, which is very nice. And like I say, with 180 alpha at tier 6, you're out trading most medium tanks, or at least trading 1-for-1 with them. But obviously, you've got more hit points, better armor, you can side scrape around corners a bit better. So yeah, it's a very, very, very nice tank. Obviously, would I recommend this tank? Yes, 100%. As a tank in general, 100%. It's a very strong tank at tier 6. I've only played about 5 to 10 games in it, but all of them have been, I've always felt like I can do something. Obviously, you get put into a tier 8 game, it's a little bit more sketchy. You're a tier 6 heavy tank in a tier 8 game. You're not going to do amazingly, but then again, what tier 6 tank in a tier 8 game does amazingly, other than really the KV2, because it doesn't really care what it's shooting at, it just goes nom nom nom. Would I recommend this tank to buy as a premium tank? That's entirely up to you. Obviously, if this thing comes on sale again, I don't know if it's going to come on sale, but it's up to you whether you want a Russian crew trainer. If you do, great pickup. Obviously, I would recommend, if you want for credits, I'd recommend, if you can afford it, get a tier 8 premium tank. They make a lot more credits, it's a lot better. I would say it's a good tank. It's a very good tank as a premium tank. Probably for credits, get tier 8. Although, if you are looking for something that's quite reliable, easy to play, like, it's not a tricky tank to play, it's quite easy. Obviously, tier 6 Russian heavy tank, so if you need to train up your Russian heavy crews, and you can't really afford to buy a tier 8 premium, definitely would recommend. It's definitely a good tier 6, a very, very solid tier 6. Anyway, that's all she wrote for the gameplay. We'll go take a look at the post-game stats in just a second, and then we'll move on. I'll do a quick comparison of this tank compared to others, and then I'll take you through my setup at the end of the video. So, there we go, guys. That was, like I said, the Object 244, 3,773 damage. Not too shabby at tier 6. 8 kills as well, so picking up a Radley Walters medal, high caliber, and Top Gun as well. Ace tanker, probably quite unsurprisingly, which is very, very nice. It obviously allows me to make a tank review on it. 3,773 damage, 8 kills, which made us 1,672 base XP, fired 27 shots, hit 22, pen 21, and made a pretty decent profit. Like I said, it's not amazing for profit. I would think I probably had battle payments or something running at the time, because I run a premium consumable, so the profit would be a little bit better if I didn't, if I wasn't running a premium consumable. But I don't play this thing to make credits. But yeah, it's a decent credit maker. Not too shabby. Just kind of to show you roughly how rare this thing is. This is What Life. I've got it ordered inversely by the amount of players. So starting with the smallest amount of players that have played tanks up to the biggest. And it sits here played pretty decently, actually. 53.5% wins and 1300 average WNA across the server. You can kind of see the tanks. It's around a little bit less rare than the Type 59 Gold, the T22 Medium, but slightly more rare than the BTSV, 279E, some more of your reward tanks. The first tech tree tank that we have is the G-Saw over here. So yeah, it's rarer than all of the tech tree tanks. I wouldn't say it's a super rare vehicle, although it is up there with probably one of my most rare vehicles. Anyway, I'm starting to waffle. I'm going to set up yet, so give me 2 seconds. We'll jump over into Tanks UG and I'll do a quick comparison, and then we'll go take a look at my setup. Now, I'm going to try and do this as quickly as possible, just so I don't make the video massively, massively long. But like I said, Object 244 on the left, KV-1S, so the tech tree, Tier 6 Russian heavy in the middle, and the KV-85, which is a collector's vehicle now on the right. And I would just like to point out, with all of these vehicles, when I say, well, this is good and this is bad, all three of these tanks are very, very good, very competitive Tier 6 heavies. So any one of the three of them, very good. It just depends what you want. I say this thing is basically like a premium version of these two, just tweaked a little bit so it's slightly different. So, like I said, DPM, 1,900 is actually the worst in this comparison. However, still a really, really, really nice DPM. Like, you're still going to be killing things quite quickly. As you saw in the gameplay, I'm still unloading pretty quickly on things. Worst penetration, so obviously a bit less than the other 85mm on the KV-1S. Quite a lot lower than the 100mm on the KV-85. Obviously the KV-85 as well gets the higher premium pen of 210. This thing was 194. Damage, 160. Not all 85mm guns are made equal. 160, 180, not all 85mm guns are made equal. The KV-1S is 160. Obviously doesn't quite compare though to the 250 on the 85. Which is really weird, to be honest, that these two both have 85mm and this one is the KV-85 with the 100mm. Anyway, let's not get bogged down with that. Nice shell velocity, actually really nice shell velocity on the standard rounds. Carries a decent amount of ammo, so you're not worried about running out. This is one of the places where this thing shines. Much, much, much better gun handling. Better aim time, 2.3 seconds. Better dispersion at 0.35. Obviously, when you add premium consumable and all your equipment and stuff onto that, that makes this all much better. Better dispersions as well, so the aim time feels even better. 5 degrees of gun depression, not great. You are going to struggle on maps that you need gun depression. Obviously, not quite as bad as the KV-85's 3, and that's where that thing really is let down. But really, really, really not too bad at all. Yeah, 5 degrees. It's not as bad as that, but it still sucks. But yeah, what you gonna do? Mobility wise, like I said in the gameplay, top speed is half decent, but the engine power does lay it down. All three tanks are pretty much weigh the same amount, but because it's got less engine power, it's got just slightly less than 12 horsepower per ton, which isn't awful. Like, you know, it's not OI or mouse levels, but you're not going to be getting anywhere ridiculously fast. Terrain resistances don't really make up for it either. Tank traverse, not too bad, 28. Again, it's still a faster heavy tank, but it's not quite KV-1S or KV-85 fast. Turret traverse, 26 degrees a second. Little on the slow side, but again, pretty much all in there. Armor, I'll come on to in a second, but it is better than the 1S and the 85 pretty much all round. Obviously, the turret is the same as the 85s, but the hull armor is much, 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 much better than the KV-85s, as we'll see in a second. Slightly more health, literally very much slightly more health, 20 more hit points, which might save you from a high roll or something, but all in all, not too bad. And 340 meters view range, which is shocking, but is the same as the other two tanks in this comparison. Now, jumping into the armor just nice and quickly, I'll just open up the 244 and the KV-85 just so you can kind of see the difference. Like I said, turrets are the exact same. Like, if you go, if you poke with a turret, you're not really going to bounce a lot. The cupola's quite weak. You might bounce some tier 5s and stuff, but the turret is not particularly good on this thing. It's the hull that kind of compensates, which is kind of nice, because obviously people in modern tanks, there's this kind of thing that you automatically don't shoot a turret because you instantly think it's going to be stronger than the hull, like especially the front of mantlet and stuff. If you're facing one of these things, if you can hit it in the mantlet, it's only 100mm thick, or just outside it's about 100mm thick. Cupola is only 90mm, but if you're shooting up at it, it can be a bit thicker. The hull is probably the place not to shoot. Lower plate, 115. The kind of like the middle, like driver's hatch, is one of the weaker parts at 100. But apart from that, you've actually got quite a decent amount of armor. And if you try and side scrape as well, you've got pretty much 100 mil all round. You do kind of have Ferdinand-esque weak spots on this, kind of like these corner pieces. But if you angle correctly and you move back and forward to try and get them to dodge this, the frontal armor isn't bad. It's definitely not good, and like I say, it kind of follows the trend of all of the other Russian heavy tanks kind of around here in this kind of side of the tech tree. Obviously, T150 is a little bit different, but it's not great armor. You can't really rely on it, but every now and again, it is going to surprise you. And like I say, if you can manage to side scrape in this thing and just hope that they don't shoot you here, you can actually do pretty decent. You've got half decent armor all around the rest of it. But yeah, just again, as a bit of a comparison just to the KV-85, the KV-85 is much more boxy, and the raw values as well are a lot thinner. If you look at if we just line these up again. Sorry, I know that I'm faffing again, making this video much longer than it should be. And just go with the collision. On this, the turret, obviously the colors are kind of graded as what the thicker bits of armor is. On this, the turret is orange and kind of like a lighter red, so less like not the thickest parts of the armor. Whereas on the KV-85, the turret is 100% the thickest part on the tank, and it's even then not particularly thick. Like, the hull is so weak. I didn't actually realize the hull is quite this weak. Side armor as well on the KV-85 is one of the biggest weaknesses, only 60mm thick. Whereas, like I said, on the 244, you're looking at 90mm thick, which is very, very nice. Or even 100 on this bit, but it is angled in. Anyway, let's go jump back into, well, I say back into the game. Let's go jump into the game, and I'll just quickly go over the setup of the vehicle, how I set this thing up. So, like I said, quickly jumping back into the garage, just go over my setup briefly and some of the actual like numbers that you can hope to achieve with the equipment. Obviously, as this thing's quite a low tier tank, you can't fit vert stabs, so I don't have vert stabs. Gun rammer, 100%. Like, you're obviously always going to want a gun rammer. It takes the DPM up to 2,400, which is very, very nice. I've also gone with a turbo, and that's obviously, like I say, that's to try and close that gap in mobility between this thing and the 85 and the 1S. It makes it decently quick. I wouldn't say it's 100% necessary, but I would say yes. Vents as well in the improved slot, just because, yeah, it's vents in an improved slot. Again, helps with absolutely everything. Other options that you've got if you really wanted to. Improved rotation mechanism, never a bad shout at the moment. One of the better pieces of the new equipment. You could swap that out for a turbo. Optics as well, obviously, if you really want to. My view range, even with everything set up, so that's like vents and the premium consumable, it's only 393, so optics is 100% definitely an option. And like, I would say your best options are rammer, turbo, or optics, depending on what style of play you want to go for, and then vents as well. I'm sure at some point the not having optics will come back to bite me. Crew skills, obviously not going to be a huge thing, because you should be running a Russian heavy tank crew in this tank. I believe it's got the same crew setup as most of the tier 10s. Mine's my 705A crew, which is my highest skilled Russian heavy crew. If you've been playing the game for any decent amount of time, you've probably got a Russian heavy crew sat around somewhere, probably from a rental 277 or something, or more than likely you've got at least one of the Russian tier 10 heavy tanks, so you should have a half decent crew to put in the tank. Whether you want to run premium consumable or not is up to you. It is a Russian tank, so fuel tanks are in the front, so I would probably say I would recommend not, unless you have got firefighting on your crew. I've got firefighting at 50% of my crew now, so I kind of deem it worth it. If I catch fire, I catch fire. I will not be saying that, and if you're watching a stream where I catch fire, you'll no doubt notice that I will definitely not be that calm about it. But still, I think it's worth it just to boost the view range up a bit, because obviously of how crap the view range is. Gives you, what, an extra 100, exactly 100 DPM, which is very, very nice. But yeah, that is the Object 244. I really want to say 277 in my head, but 244. If you do have any questions on this tank, guys, make sure you ask me in the comments. Like I said before, my opinion is very good tank, strong tank at tier 6, would recommend. Obviously, it being a premium tank, at the end of the day, it is up to you. But yeah, so thank you all so much for watching. Please give the video a like if you've enjoyed. Please give it a dislike if you haven't enjoyed. I know this new way of me doing tank reviews, I still waffle a bit. I haven't quite got how I want to do it down to a T yet. So please do bear with me on that. If you do want to see what other tank reviews I have, there will be a link to my tank list in the description. If you click through that, you'll see A, what tanks I have, and B, which one of them I've done tank reviews on. There will be a link next to that. And on that, make sure you're subscribed, notifications on so you know when I upload. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.